Good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting agenda of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale, Tuesday, June 9th, 2026, at 7 p.m. The closed meeting is ordered by salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mary Botto.
Here.
Councilman Rocker.
Present.
Councilman Catalano. Councilman Graziano.
Here.
Councilwoman Hagan. Here. Councilwoman Schubert. Here. Councilman Yasi.
Here. We also have Municipal Clerk Brianna Smith, Business Administrator Michael Sondegard, and Borough Attorney Dawn Sullivan. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised in the Herald News on January 9, 2026. Copies were provided to the local news media and posted continuously in the municipal buildings. A copy of this notice is available to the public and on file in the office of the municipal clerk. As per state fire code, I am required to acknowledge that two emergency exits in this council chamber. The main entrance which you enter through and the secondary exit to the left of where I am seated. If there is an emergency, walk orderly to the exit through the door, down the stairs, and out the building. If there's any questions, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we do not have any non-agenda items tonight. Make a motion to open up early public comment. So moved. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Anybody wishing to come up, please come up, state your name and address.
Charles Carvalho, 75 New Jersey. Just make a quick comment on the SLEO contract. I'm very pleased that you're renewing it. The reason is this particular gentleman is perfectly suited for that position. I mean, you've got the experience, you have the track record, but I'm pleased that you're renewing that contract.
Thank you. Yeah, he's a gentleman, and he works really well with the kids. He's very well liked. Anyone else? Seeing no one, a motion to close. So second. All in favor?
Aye.
Reported committees. Evie?
Mayor, this Saturday is the Sloan Park Festival, June 13th from 3 to 9. There's going to be between 8 and 10 food vendors and a lot of vendors that Jen knows a little more about. There's going to be 2 bands. Maxed Out starts at 3 and the mugshots start at 8. And I encourage any vendors out there for the following events that we have, which are the fireworks in town, which are on June 27th. If you have not submitted your paperwork, to please do so. And also, for the Bloomingdale Senior Center, again, they're back at their new senior center.
They're back in their home.
Back in their home, and I missed their welcome back. But again, if any seniors want to get involved, they have trips, they have chair aerobics, they have their walking club every Wednesday at 9 a.m., bingo, and they have several trips planned. There's one for Washington, D.C., and lots of things planned. If you could go to their website or visit them at the senior center. Also, for the Triborough First Aid Squad, they sent me their numbers for May, and they were 156 for May. Year to date, 748 calls. Triborough had 129 calls, covered 121. They missed 8, which was 94%. Calls to Butler were 59. Calls to Bloomingdale 59. Keelong 36. They also had mutual aid to Compton Lake and Wanacue. Duty calls were 72, and all calls were 49. And Gail said that their instructional this month is graduation fever.
And also, Trevor, I believe the refurbished rig came in. One of the ambulance just went out to be restored, and that rig is back, which is good.
Their meeting is tonight at 7:30. I'll go there when we finish.
Yeah.
Do they have a wet down or anything?
No,
It's
no,
just refurbished?
it's refurbished now. I don't believe they have it. I know there's another one on order. When that's coming in, I don't know. But, that's it. I also, EMS week, I went up and met with them. I went up there to partake in it, and it was nice. Little social, food up for them, and they were very positive of having everything for clear event. Okay, John.
Economic Development Commission, as a reminder, we have the Red, White, and Bloomingdale program going on. So that's for residents to sign up, to decorate their houses, to celebrate our 250th birthday as a country. I've already seen a lot of houses that started to put their decorations out, and I think that's great. And we should keep them out as long as we can. Keep even put the bumping that around, unfortunately, I keep forgetting. But I did sign up for it, and this is also extended to the businesses as well, asking them to decorate along Main Street, and to also let us know if there's any types of special programming or special things that they're going to do. For example, at Munchies, they said that they were going to have a photo booth on the 4th of July, and they're going to give out free hot dog for everyone that has an order. So those are the types of things that we're hearing from the businesses. A lot of responses to people that want to participate, and we're going to make that more and more known throughout the next couple months.
Very good. Right. Dave?
So for environmental, we were awarded a grant through Sustainable New Jersey, and on Monday the 15th, Mike Mastello and Pat Scott will be going down to receive that grant. And the Board of Education will be having their next meeting at 6:30 on Wednesday, June 24th, at the Old TV Library.
To touch on the Small Art Festival, we are thanking and region for filling over the spreadsheets of that event. We've been touching the flyers and social medias, making sure that paperwork is completed with the layout. We've had a couple of last minute shadows, but it's fingers crossed so that it continues to hold out. It's a beautiful day. Library has some really fun things. They're going to be hosting a table at Sloan Park to start the launch of the summer reading, which is called Another Story. To link with that, they are also doing a dinosaur fossil program on June 29th at 4:30 at the Senior Center. They're actually bringing in full-size fossils for the kids to look, and the administrator that was looking forward to doing that. That's to kick off the summer program. They're also going to be doing a flag program to support America's anniversary. That's going to be taking place on the 24th. It is one day, it'll be at the Senior Center. And on the 25th at 7 p.m., they're doing a mentalist comedy program, which is also sign-ups are on the website, and that is also taking place at the Senior Center.
Should be pretty fun.
Yeah, it's if you want to get there and sign up to everything they seem to be doing at the library that Allie's putting together is really builds up very, very fast. So they had an incredible month with the food anniversary with the food anniversary, they had quite a nice turnout at both of their celebrations. So things are going really well there. Board of Health,
Did we have any, library?
library, yeah, we had a meeting last night.
Oh, I just want to mention something else. So, Tom at Riley at the Mr. Riley has the Bloomingdale Museum, and it will be open on Saturday. He always is open on Saturdays, but I just encourage anybody that wants to find out about, you know, the early beginnings of Bloomingdale. He is a wealth of information, and it's located at 30 Boston Street, and hours are 10 to 4, and he'll be there both on our Sloan Park on this Saturday and for the fireworks on the 27th as well.
Yeah. And Elm Street is going well. Getting close to wrapping up all the marathon, we'll start paving curbs. The laser playground playground equipment is in. They're getting some stone donated by Silvana. Also, donated stone to go underneath the yard reserves. So they're getting ready. That's next stage. That should be done within the next week or so. That should be done. Should probably take some type of grand opening date at some point. The Chestnut Culvert contractor goes behind on doing other work in town. So they're going to start that project early July, right after the 4th of July weekend. And road is complete. They put the dock in, and I don't know that project is done.
So nice to see a lot of people on that mission, they're really enjoying it.
Yeah, I stopped here the other day to walk out on the guy just out there and just loved it. Actually, one of my neighbors and his wife walked over there and they just commented on it. Very good.
We also, official, non-official, but we are going to get 100 grand in the museum, open space, Palm County. We are going to get, I can't remember the number, it was 100 something for the Walter Fitz. Walter's public meeting in July will have the late official announcement at that very yes.
That's excellent.
Yes.
Deal report today.
Don't remember if they said the school project is started.
The fencing is up.
Fencing's up.
Installed electric to support the construction, and the trailers are in.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. I stopped over there yesterday to the softball thing for games tonight and talk about it. They had a truck there and there was out there and they got that. I think they all did it in one day. And then the fence, you know, it's covered in ice, it's presentable, they put the walking path, they cut that kind of out. So, that's progress on that, that's great. The other thing that happened today, I actually received an email yesterday from, CFO, from Heather, regarding our residences. So, I am bringing that. So I went up to his house regarding what is his cable. So I went to his house yesterday. I figured it's easier if you go there. I'm not going to go to say, well, I'll see something like that. It winds up, long story short, his last name is Harper. Now, this is close to the, and like, his great-grandfather was the first fire chief of Bloomingdale. So I spent probably a half an hour by this with this gentleman, really super nice guy. And then he told me he worked at the reservoir, and he was in charge of taking all the baseball players and coaches and management, Billy Martin specifically, catfish hunter, fishing on the reservoir. So it was an interesting conversation, so just necessarily, they are calling tomorrow to see if we can. And then I get any out stuff. But anyway, it was a great conversation with a local resident. You never know who you're going to run into. Okay, and we another thing I'm going to bring up. We've had several structure fires in town that I've been at. One at Treetop, which we had a rescue of a light there. and that person, from our understanding, is doing well. And then over the weekend, we had a structure fire on James Ave over Roy. Luckily, nobody was sold, nobody was hurt, but the response we had from not only our town, the local towns around us, because it was hot, and the Aquatic First Aid, I believe, was there, and then our First Aid came in, and our ladies on facility did a tremendous job supplying everybody with water, and very minimal amount of damage to the garage there. So seems to be happening a little bit more often locally in past years. But luckily nobody was hurt, and our PD and fire for that rescue up on Treetop was tremendous to get that person out of the building, which was good. And she got better back out, and we understand she's doing well, which is good. Okay. All right, so let's move on. Item 8, resolution number 2026 6.1 consent agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Crawford,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Yazdi,
Yes. Okay. Pending items. Item A, second final reading, public hearing, ordinance number 8-2026, index rate cap bank. Public notice statement, please.
Yes, Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published on our website. Copies were made available to the public so that a motion may be made that it be read by title.
So a motion to read by title.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Borough of Bloomingdale, calendar year 2026, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 48/4-45.14.
Okay, so a motion to open up public hearing.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public wishing to come up?
Charles Carvalho said about a minute and a half. Just to clarify, this rate cap will allow you to use $50,000 of bank cap. When you're done with using this bank cap, there'll only be $12,000 roughly left over bank cap. Is that wrong?
Everything that's it?
So you need that cap after you use this. If you don't have an answer right now, you can get back to me.
Oh, you have any other questions? Or?
No, my other comment would be on other topics that are on the agenda items.
All right. Let them go through it.
Yeah,
And I'll bring you back.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the index rate cap bank? So you know what, a motion to close?
So move. Second.
No, they're going to answer. I'll open it. I'll answer. Okay.
There would be approximately $198,000
$198,000.
for the next year's cap bank. That would be
The 198 includes the next year's back cap, or that's back cap of today after you consume the 350?
today after we can, well, no, that's part of the, right? After today, I'm sorry, yeah, after today.
So it's after the 350.
It's after the Thursday.
After the 350.
So we're rolling 190 over to next year.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a motion, close? All there?
Aye.
Okay, motion for adoption?
So move. Second.
Roll call.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Okay, we're going to do a budget presentation. Mike and our financial staff will be here going through this. And then we will open up for questions once we get into the reading of the public notice statement and the resolution for budget for the introduction. you can, keep your questions minimal now, and then we'll get to them when we get into the next step. And then they'll be here to answer any questions we have. But folks, please put all questions through me, and then I'll direct it to where it needs to go.
Thank you. What is law? Right.
You need the mic closer to you? Or?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's okay. The public can hear. Thank you.
Got me through? Right, 26. Talk about the budget this year, what we introduced a couple of weeks ago at our meeting, is what this is based on. As you know, we're not adopting tonight because we're on the state review every 3 years. We have to go under a state review. They have found some issues with our budget, which our auditors and the finance department are working on. We'll get that straightened out, and we'll be able to introduce, probably with an amendment, I would imagine, next meeting. So we'll introduce our budget at that point in time.
And that's going to be June 23rd, right?
Right.
So some of the talking points we're going to talk about tonight are revenues versus appropriations, year-over-year overall expenditures, budget challenges, assessed valuation, tax breakdown, capital projects and expenditures, and strategic revenue review. So our budget this year, proposed municipal budget is $16,628,784. That is a 7.8% increase over 2025. And we're going to get into what makes up that $16 million in the next few slides here. So the appropriations, that's what the borough spends money on. The finance committee, or I say the finance department, will sit down and they'll go through the appropriations. There's certain things, majority of these things, that they stick and they put into the budget. There's only a very small portion that comes from outside, what's called department budgets. That's that 10% there. That we get from our department heads. They'll submit a budget to us. We'll look at that budget. When I say we, myself and the finance department, will make cuts at that point, and we'll put it back into the budget. And then the finance committee comes in, made up of 3 government body members, the mayor, Councilman Yazzie, and Councilman Graziano, and they'll make cuts to the budget, but pretty much the only thing we really touch is that. Everything else now, I'll get into it a little bit, is pretty much uncontrollable. It is what it is, to a limit. So, debt and capital makes up 11% of the budget. Health insurance, just health insurance and the money we pay people that opt out of health insurance, accounts for 13% of the budget. Statutory expenditures, which is your police and fire retirement system, your social security, and your unemployment compensation, makes up 11%. Again, no control on that. The reserves for uncollected taxes makes up 2%, and that comes from a formula as well that we have no control over. The O&E miscellaneous, we do have limited control here. This is everything else. Typically, you look at the budget, there's payroll and there's O&E. I split up the O&E so that the department heads and department budgets where we really make all our cuts. The other part of the O&E, we pretty much don't touch. It's made up mostly of your shared service agreement offsets. State federal grants, 0.2%. And that's that point in time when we introduced. We had like $20,000, we'll get into some more numbers here in the next few slides. So it's $20,000 that we got from grants. And those aren't the DOT grants, or the ones that I mentioned tonight for the open space. Those are your, the bulletproof vests from the police, the clean communities, the public, drug lines, grants that we get. Drive sober, get hold of those type of grants.
So at the point in time, we only had a couple, so if we're going to show it as a negative right now, and then a couple of slides you'll see. But since we introduced, we actually picked up 3 or 4 more of those grants, so we're probably in the plus. But at the time we got them, we're in the negative. And then salaries make up 32%, and those salaries are made up of 63 contractual employees, DBA, blue collar, white collar, and 26 non-contractual employees, those are the department heads, and some other various positions in town. Total of 89 employees. Next slide we're going to come to is revenue. This is what the borough spends on, how we spend our money. Or how we raise the money. So we have $16 million in appropriations. We need to raise $16 million plus in revenue to pay for all those appropriations. So you can see on this slide here, the delinquent tax, that's 2.5% of the budget. That is for the tax that we did not collect last year, that we got this year, that we can use to fund our budget this year. You can't go back to last year. That's not necessarily good. We'll talk about that a little while later also. Fund balance surplus is 0.4%. That is also way down from where we've been in the past. And I have a slide on the fund balance. We'll get into that a little bit as well. The pilot, fees, permits, court fines, one-time revenues from the land sale, that makes up 20.5% of our revenues. Our shared services that we have, or our garbage collection, street sweeping, and everything else that we do, that we offer, not that we pay for, we offer the services, those makes up 11%. The state aid, that's 3.4%. That's what we get, obviously, from the state, and that has not changed. That's the same number we got last year, dollar-wise. And the grants, again, 0.2%. So the finance department finds all that revenue, and they look at appropriations. This is really simple right now, and they say, okay, we have 16 million, we have 8 million in revenues. Where do we get the rest from? It goes to the tax from the people. So that's what that big pie, that 62% tax collected from the residents and businesses down to help offset the revenue side. You have to raise revenue that match the appropriations, and 3% of that tax collected is also your library tax. 33% of the budget. After they make those things match, the appropriations and the revenues, then we have to rely on our professionals, which is Andy and Joe, from our auditors. They come in and sit with Heather and Jasmine and myself, and we go through the appropriations, the levy tax, certain things we cannot exceed. Appropriations is 3.5%, and the levy tax is 2%. And they help us when they come in. They find exceptions, exclusions, and additions that can be taken out of cap. You always hear in cap, out of cap. In cap, you're limited to those percentages that you can increase. When it goes out of cap, it helps you fall within your budget. Once you get those caps in place, you're either equal to or under those caps, those 3.5% and 2%, then you can introduce your budget. And that's where we were a couple of weeks ago when we introduced the budget. So this is just looking back the last 6 years of our municipal budget. You can see we're at $16,628,784, which is the last line there, 1.2 million over, or 7.8% over 2025. Since 2020, appropriations have gone up 25%, or on an average of 4.2% a year. Obviously, the next slide is identical because this is your revenues, and revenues has to match appropriations. So we're the same $16,620,784 in revenue. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about the appropriation side. So the first line there, salaries, which is all staff, which I think I said was 89 people. That accounts for $5,362,000, or an 8.6% increase. And the dollar associated with that is $426,000. Keep in mind, $384,000 of that is contractual. It's set in contracts with the PPA, white collar, and blue collar. We can't touch it at this point in time. It is what it is. What we can touch is the non-contractual, or the 26 employees, and that went up $42,000, and that's every year around November, December, the governing body passes a resolution, adopted whatever the percent change is going to be for those 26 people for the following year. The operating expense, and again, I broke this down a little bit because I wanted you to see where we actually have influence, and that is in the individual budgets. So the individual budgets for departments is $1.7 million, or 0.7%. It went up $11,000 this year. Last year we cut that budget $60,000. So 0.7 is, it barely gets us where, I mean, the departments are struggling. We know that, and we just have to find what we know we have to do. We have to keep taxes down, and that's where we really can make an impact. The health insurance, $2.1 million. It's a 24.6% increase, or the dollar amount is $424,000 increase this year alone in health insurance. Again, that one there, uncontrollable. We belong to a HIF, and the rates are going up. And the rates are going up in the state's health benefit plan also. And we have employees, and they're guaranteed contractually to have health insurance, and that's the number that we pay for state insurance.
How much did the state go?
I'll get to that in a little while, Ray, but I want to say it's 36%, I think the number is. But don't hold me to that later on. 100%. And last year, the same thing. We went up like 20% last year, and the state went up almost 30%. And what I'm hearing on the street is that the state is going up even more than the 36% next year. So hopefully we hold true, or do some things that the gentleman in the back here is going to talk about later on, trying to get the state involved, lobby our legislators to see if they get involved with the state benefits. Because if they can drop state benefits down for us, our contracts read that we have to provide equal to or better than. So if we do a resolution, which I'm in support of, with Charles is going to talk about a little while later, it only helps if it passes. If they get rid of some services, then we can drop our health benefits some as well. So we'll see. The library is $453,000. It's a 10.5% increase, or $43,000. We have no control on that either. That comes, it's a formula, a third of a mil formula that the state sends to you, and they said this is what you must pay your library to have it run.
And that's year over year. It doesn't.
Year over year.
Right.
Every year they come back, and then if I looked at my thing, I want to say it's probably gone up 10-something% each year for the last 7 years. I think it's been up $170,000, $180,000 since 2020. Went from like 280 to the 453 it is today. But again, we don't have any control or any say on that in this room. We're limited. Share service, which is utilities. Your share services, which is again accounting for what you're bringing in share service wise. Utilities, meaning just what that is, electric, gas, all of that stuff. And all the other insurances, liability, all the other insurances that come with that, and any other miscellaneous items. That's $2.9 million. It's a 4.6% increase, or $129,000. That also, we really have limited control over, unless we back out of shared services, which also messes up your revenue, so you're in it, and it's really nothing you're going to change at this point. State and federal grants. That's one we talked about before. Again, we had an introduction, $20,000. It was a 58% lower than last year, but we've received 3 or 4 more grants since then. So that's probably a zero, or actually it's probably a plus for us right now. Statutory expenditures, the unemployment insurance, pensions, Social Security, all that, $1.8 million. We don't have control over that, but lo and behold, it went down 5%. So we saved $101,000, and that was pretty much due to pensions.
It was both pensions, PFRS and PERS.
Capital debt and services. So I broke this out into 2 lines. The vehicle leases. So a few years ago, maybe 7 years ago, the governing body that sat on the dais decided we weren't going to bond for vehicles anymore. want to put it into our operating budget. We want to take out, just like you do at home, a 3, 5, 7-year loan on vehicles. So this number, this $367,000, is what we currently have in our budget today. And those are vehicles from 2022 through last year. We had a 21% increase, or $64,000 increase from last year. And that $64,000 includes 2 police cars, which is $20,000. And the balance, the $40,000, $32,000 balance, is for a sweeper payment that was previously budgeted under a share service line. So we took a share service line, we just offset the cost of that. But we moved it into budget because we instructed it, when we brought into our capital leases, to take advantage of a cap exception permitted by the DCA. So that's why we brought it inside cap. We had a benefit on the other side of it. The infrastructure improvements, this is all of your debt that we pay on bonds and notes, principal and interest on both. $1.4 million is a 9.7% increase, or $127,000. But keep in mind that infrastructure improvements, which is pretty much all your road improvements that we do and other improvements in town for the infrastructure, that is current outstanding debt that comes from as early as 2009 through today. So this is not just debt you took on the last 2 years. This is debt you've had the last X amount of years that we're paying payments on through. I mean, there's probably 20-year notes on some of these, 20-year bonds on some of these things from 2009. But we're making payments each year to pay things down and pay things off. Uncontrollable at this point in time. We bonded money, previous government bodies bonded money, we have to make the payment. So there's no, you can't do it, you can't cut it out, you can't stop paying it. And the reserve for uncollected taxes is $320,000. That's a 53% increase, or $112,000 increase in the budget. We don't have control over that either. This is mandated due to an increase in lack of collection of taxes from last year. So we anticipated on collecting, I want to say 99.4% of our tax base. We did not collect all of that last year. Some came this year. That's why we had that when I showed you earlier in the revenue. We had a reserve. I mean the delinquent tax. We can use it this year. But doing that, now our what they call the rut went down. So we can't anticipate as much revenue as we have in the past. So we have to increase our reserve in order to cover that. So it's a $112,000 increase in the budget that this government body had no control over. So total appropriations, $16 million, $16,620,784, 7.8% over last year, or 1.2% increase. On the revenue side, so again, the grants we talked about a couple of times. It's not a true number. We have more than that now. State aid, we bring in $560,000 from New Jersey, which is the exact same dollar amount we got last year, so 0% increase or decrease. The library, we have to raise $453,000, or a 10.6% increase over last year. Again, we want to control on that. We have to raise the money. We're mandated to pay that to the library. Shared services bring in $1.8 million, or a 2% increase, and that's indicative of pretty much all of our contracts we have with shared services. Year over year, it's pretty much 2% increase. Things we'll talk about later, we should probably look at in future shared services when we look at renegotiating some of these shared services down the road. The pilot, land sale, fines, licensing fees, all of that brings in $3.4 million, or 17% over last year, what we actually brought in. Fund balance surplus, we're using $65,000 this year, which is a negative 90%. We just didn't regenerate our fund balance and surplus that we had in the past. We'll talk about that a little bit while later, but I think most of that is attributed to payroll and more health insurance. Because in the budget, that is a place where you can, I don't want to use the word pad, but you can add a little extra more money in those line items in the past. And that's where we built the surplus mostly from. But being that the health is so high, and salaries have gone up, that you can't hide money anymore in there, and we're trying to cut as much as we can to make taxes work for the residents of Bloomingdale. That's why I think our surplus, and then also cutting budget, what we do, again, to bring in as low as we can, is hurting us on the fund balance surplus side of things. Delinquent tax, this was again the $437,000 that was not collected last year, 145% increase from last year to this year, and that's we're using that as a revenue, but again, that's not a good thing. And then at the end of the day, what we need to raise by taxes is $9.8 million for municipal budget, or 11.6%. Total revenue, again, the $16 million change and 7.8% increase. Just know that 17, I didn't go back. That oh yeah, I did talk about the land sale. 800,000 of that was the land sale from M&T on that pilot land sale and fines line. All right, let's talk about some of the budget challenges we had this year, and last year, and probably years to come. First thing is health insurance increases. Then we have an issue with tax collection, which we just talked about, the rut. Emergency weather this year in January and February. Our fund balance / surplus being down, and then one-time revenue used to balance our budget. So health insurance, you can see 2025, last year our health insurance went up $355,000. This year our health insurance went up an additional $424,000. This is again uncontrollable. We can't touch this. Mandatory contractual obligations. The HIF, the health insurance fund we belong to, versus state health, councilman 24.6, and it is 36. State health went up 36%. Included in these increases for health are premiums for retirees that are long gone from the borough, but we still require to keep on our insurance for contractual severance agreements. So again, stuff that governing body before us, members that appear also with prior employees, we have to cover those bills, something we can't control at this point in time. Tax collection and reserve gap, this is what we're talking about, the RUT, which is reserve for uncollected taxes. So you can see our historical average was 99.4%. And the reserve on that was $208,000 and change. Being that we came in under, we couldn't use that number anymore, so we took our last 3 years and averaged it, and that came out to 99.12%, which drove our reserve up to $320,556. And that 0.28% drop accounts for a $112,000 increase to our budget this year. Uncontrollable stuff we can't do it. The governing body here couldn't control that. To provide clarity on the reserve for uncollected taxes, or the RUT adjustment, the increase was driven by specific timing issues regarding subsequent tax payments. In a typical year, lien holders who already hold a stake in a property usually pay the subsequent taxes, like the fourth quarter, to protect their investment. This year, a significant number of those subsequent payments were not picked up by the lien holders before the fiscal year end. Because these payments remain outstanding when the books close, our actual collection rate drops, which by law triggers a mandatory increase in our RUT appropriation for the following year. To prevent this overlap in the future, we're moving our tax sale to an earlier date in the calendar year by holding the sale sooner. We create a wider window for the tax office to identify non-payments and engage with lien holders well before the year-end deadline. This shift in timing will ensure subsequent taxes are captured within the correct fiscal year, helping us return to our historical 99.4 collection efficiency. So that's our plan for that specific item. Next one we talked about here, unforeseen snow operations. We know we had a rough winter. We had a really rough January, February, 2 major storms hit us. They both happened on weekend. So not only did we have to pay Saturday, time and a half, you had Sunday at double time. It cost us $109,000 for payroll and also the surge and the salt and the icing. They were unanticipated costs. was the direct result of the back-to-back storms. In the municipal budget, we planned for a typical winter. However, these blizzards required 24/7 mobilization that moved us from maintenance mode into emergency response mode. When we have 8+ inches of accumulation in a single window, we cannot simply wait for the next business day. To keep emergency routes open for police and fire, our DPW crews work 16-hour shifts through the night. This $109,000 includes the mandatory overtime pay required to ensure that every primary and secondary road was passable for emergency vehicles by 6 a.m. each day. Beyond labor, a significant portion of this surge went towards consumables. During these high-intensity events, the volume of salt and de-icing materials required skyrocketed. Furthermore, when every municipality in the region is ordering salt simultaneously during a crisis, we see peak pricing and delivery surcharges. We had to restock our bays mid-storm to ensure we didn't run out during the second event. While these costs were unanticipated, the alternative, failing to clear the roads, was not an option. The liability of a blocked emergency route or a significant multi-car accident due to untreated road would have far exceeded the $109,000 spent. This was a necessary investment in physical safety for residents and the protection of our infrastructure. Again, an item that was uncontrollable in the budget from this governing body.
Mike, also with that, the days after, when we had to go and clean curb to curb, Red Street, for example, we had to pick up, dump, take it, and remove it from the streets.
Move it from the streets, pick it up, dump, exactly right.
And that also took a lot of time.
The only plus is that money, that $100 actually was able to come, correct me if I'm wrong, came out of cap.
Correct.
So it helped us as we make our numbers in cap. If that was not allowed, if the state didn't allow us to take it out, we would have really been hurting this year. We had to find that in the budget. But for a big revenue to pick up that $109,000.
Well, it's still part of your overall budget.
It is 100%. It's part of that $16 million. So let's talk about the fund balance. So here's a snapshot of the last 7 years. And you can see where we were with our fund balance and what we used and what we did with that and the reason we did it. So in 2020, we had a $1.1 million fund balance. We used almost $1 million to keep the average house at a tax increase of $23, or 2%. In 21, we regenerated that same $900 and something thousand. We used all of it to keep our taxes at $25, or a 0.7% increase. In 22, we generated $1 million. We used $1 million, and we actually brought the average tax down $6. In 23, we regenerated $1.7 million, and again, I think a lot of this regeneration it wasn't a padded department head budget or department budget or some of the other things talked about. I think a lot of it, talking to our finance department and previous CFOs and treasurers, that's where the money was really in payroll and health. Because they were big numbers that you can add more money in, and if you don't use it all, it's good to have it in case you need emergency. But at the end of the day, if you didn't use it, that's where a lot of the surplus came from. And in these subsequent years, when hires versus new paid people we brought in, veterans, new hires revenue, when that dropped, that was his first 3 lines. Then also, all those new hires we brought in started catching up, especially some of the people with steps. So salaries started going back up to where they were prior to this. And then obviously the health just through the roof. So you can see in 2024, we used $1.2 million of 1.3 was a $58 increase, and then the next 2 years we really got hit. We only generated the $715,000 in 2025. We used $650 to try and keep it as low as possible, which was a $204 increase. And then this year we only regenerated $152,000. We're using 65, leaving 87,000 in there, but that you see the increase is $356 to the average home. As a whole, for the last 7 years, we've used it for the governing bodies. Some people have been set here for those 7 years, and some new people. $6.3 million in surplus was used to try and keep taxes down for residents of Bloomingdale, and that kept it below $100, or roughly a 3.43% increase over the last 7 years. Per year. $2026 assessed value or net valuation. So Bloomingdale, if you look down properties there, down to net valuation taxable 2026, we have 2,656 properties that we tax and that we get our revenue from, whether that's commercial, residential, vacant lands, people that don't have homes on them or any type of construction on them, and farmland. And you can see each one of those on the far right, what they actually contribute to the taxes that we collect. So vacant land, 79 properties, they contribute $1 million to the taxes. Residential, the 2445 homes, they contribute $31 million to the taxes. Farmland, the 18, contributes $76,000. And the commercial in town contributes $3.8 million to our taxes or rateables to help offset. If you go down now to total, the total number of properties in Bloomingdale is 2,752 properties. That's a difference of 96, and that's what that exempt is. There's 96 properties that just don't pay tax, whether it's Northern Green, whether it's the House of Worship, whether it's borough-owned, state-owned, county-owned. There's things that they're tax exempt. And just for sake of doing this, those properties, 96 properties, their assessed value was $72 million, or roughly $3.6 million. Obviously, we'll never collect any of that, or we won't collect most of that because of just the reason we said they're public land that we use, state uses, Northern Green, 50% of our green area in Bloomingdale. So you're not going to see much of that money. What I did put in here though is under the town-owned, non-public zone. So the town-owned property, everything that's not public owned. So this building, this property is public owned. The senior center public owned. DPW, the firehouses, animal shelters, those are all public owned. We have property that is not. It's sitting in residential areas, it's sitting in business zones, it's sitting in our M1 zone, and it's valued at $5.6 million. Or revenue coming in, if it was all built out, would be $282,000. Part of the things we're talking about later on, some of the things we want to talk about possibly doing is looking at selling some of that land. If possible, usable, or put it up for auction. So you get a one-time sale, and you get it on rateable, as opposed to just sitting there and getting nothing. The town just has a piece of property that's sitting there. We've seen a couple that when I say we, myself and the mayor, have seen a couple that we have the tax assessor looking into that seem like viable properties that can be, or probably will be sold, and somebody would be interested in them. Whether it's surrounding property, or somebody that's coming in because water and sewer are actually right within, like, 15 feet of the property line, so possibility. And then the last one, I took exempt vets. We love the vets, what they've done for us. The state, they came up with that exempt vet or disabled vet doesn't have to pay tax, which again, I'm all for. But unlike the senior freeze, when the seniors come in and get a senior freeze, and our taxes go up, they pay the total tax, we're whole, and they get reimbursed whatever they froze at. With the vets, it's all on the taxpayer. The state doesn't reimburse us for anything. So those 19 homes contribute $264,000 that revenue we don't see because of the state. So they just wanted to put that in there. That's something that the taxpayers have to come up with, that extra money there. The tax base that was introduced here on all of this, so you have $727,800. That rate was the tax rate on that with the budget that we introduced was 5.004. That's where I calculated all these numbers from. Our estimated tax rate that we put in was 4.889, so a little bit less than what we introduced. So some of these numbers would come down a little. Also, a key note is that the $727,000, that number, the valuation of Bloomingdale, actually is down 0.2% from 2025. We were at $729,000 change last year. And that is partly due to, you see buildings that are being demoed and now no longer have an assessed value. All they're doing is vacant land. So that drives down that valuation. Computation tax rate, I know this came up last year. People were questioning why we do estimated tax rates. So our third quarter taxes are always estimated unless you have certification from the state and everything is finalized. Typically, by the time we do, we don't. we know ours, we know the library, we know our open space. When we introduced, we didn't know the school at the time, we now know the school. So we used the school number when we did our estimate for the rate. We don't know the county yet. We won't know that county for a while. So when we do our third quarter computation for estimates, we take the assessed value of the home, whatever your home's assessed at, and you divide it by 100, which is $100 for assessed value, and you multiply that by the rate, which in this case the estimated rate was 4.889, and that gives you your yearly total. You take the yearly total and you minus what you paid the first 2 quarters, and that gives you what you owe the second half. You divide that in half, and that's your third quarter payment. And then somewhere after we adopt, and the state finally certifies it, everything's good to go, the entire budget, we get the assessed value, fourth quarter computation, assessed value divided by that same $100, multiplied by the new official certified tax rate, and that gives you what the official taxes that you should have been paying for that year, this year. You back out the 3 first quarter payments, and that gives you what to do in the fourth quarter. And if you take that total number and you divide that by 4, those are the first 2 payments for the next quarter 1 and quarter 2 of the following year. So you always, your rate for this year, the first 2 quarters of the following year are assumed from what you pay this year in taxes. Then we estimate again third quarter next year, and fourth quarter we balance everything back. So just do a tax breakdown here on the average home. So that evaluation chart we saw a couple of slides back, the average assessed house in Bloomingdale, the value is $256,432. We use the tax rate, because we know the schools, that's why I highlighted in green, of that 4.998 for $100 assessed value. So the yearly taxes for an average home in 2026 are $12,816. That's the estimate. And you can see in the chart where that's going. So the municipal government, this government body here, is getting 27% of that, or $3,460. Open space is getting 0.5. Open space is for your field, your parks and rec, your the lakes in town, maintaining them. The $64 of your taxes goes towards that for an average home. Library, 1.5 is $192. The county, which also includes their open space, gets 17% for $2,179 of that money, and then the school is 54% for $6,921 of the assessed value for the home. This one I just did, while the borough is required to collect all the property taxes, only 27% goes to municipal services. The majority of these taxes, as you can see, we just talked about, they go to the school, they go to the county, they go to the county open space, they go to the library. All of them have independently set their own budgets, whereas in the library case is set by the state, in which impacts taxes beyond the borough's control. You can see the $36 million we need to do our taxes this year, all in, estimated. 19 and change goes to the school. $6 million goes to the county, and just on the county side, the open space in the county is about $100,000 is for the open space of that $6 million. And if you just look back at our history, the last 3 or 4 years, even a little more, we actually receive 200 something each year in our open space grant. So for the 100 that we're putting in there, we're getting back almost 100% profit on top of it, which is not kind of nice. The town itself, $9.8 million of the total. Library gets $453,000, and open space gets $181,000. So the average home for the municipal pays $3,460 in taxes. Or if you break that down by a day, $9.50 a day. And for that money, you receive all of those things and then some. So public safety, emergency response, community events and programming, public works, administration of the government, and infrastructure. So for the $3,460 or $9.50 a day, you're getting a lot of services to residents, immediately one. Our capital improvement. What we've done this year, obviously we've been talking about for a while, the boat pond, playground, We finished up Catherine and Bailey, and we did the Star Lake Road stormwater improvement. The pending projects, or current ones that are going on, and in Elm Street, which includes water as well as road improvements. The senior center floor, actually slightly over completed, is now done. The DeLazer playground, which is in the process of being done. Stormwater improvements on Reeves and Chestnut. Chestnut starting in July. Hillcrest and Cook, I believe that's on the agenda tonight to introduce an ordinance to fund that. And then Fisher, Lakeside, and Woodward, again, a current project, and the DeLazer bathrooms and the backstop to DeLazer. And I just want to keep in mind, most of these projects, other than the stormwater improvements, are partial or full grant coverage to do these projects. So talk a little about strategic investment. We prioritize infrastructure, work that prevents asset depreciation. And this is for people saying that our debt is going up, which we know it is, but we have to maintain infrastructure. Otherwise, it's going to cost us X amount of times more to repair and to fix things in the future if you don't take care of it now. So this includes critical road work, stormwater system upgrades that are essential for long-term municipal liability. By investing wisely today, we protect the tax base of tomorrow and avoid the emergency multiplier costs shown in our data analysis. Be the next slide. So stabilizing debt starts with recognizing that our current obligations represent infrastructure already delivered. We aren't adding debt for operational costs. We are paying for the roads we drive on and the equipment our first responders use every day. Our strategy is to synchronize new projects with the retirement of old debt. By timing our capital improvements carefully, we keep our annual debt service payments predictable and flat, preventing spikes in the tax rate. By stabilizing our debt-to-revenue ratio, we maintain our high credit rating. This ensures that when an emergency does happen, we have the borrowing power to react at the lowest possible cost to the taxpayer. And just to look at some of those multipliers, this data comes from the Federal Highway Administration. They talk about emergency repair costs between 4 to 10% increase over a planned event. So a massive cost of deferral, waiting, we'll just put it off. You can see there on road infrastructure, $100,000 proactive today could cost you $400,000 in emergency down the road. Utility main repair could cost you $50,000 today as a surgical fix. An emergency would be $250,000, and a vehicle fleet service, $5,000 today could cost you 9 times more, $45,000 for failure for replacement down the road. So you can't not stop doing projects and fixing infrastructure in town. It's just not a smart investment. Debt reality, you cannot unpave a road. I believe this came from you, right? This is Heather's quote. You cannot unpave a road to save the interest. Current debt is the fulfillment of past infrastructure promises that are now serving our residents. Debt service is a fixed statutory obligation. These are already incurred charges for assets the public currently utilizes. They must be honored by law. We'll talk a little bit about our strategic revenue review. Our shared services, talking with the finance department, we need to look at doing a full audit of agreements to ensure rates reflect 2026 insurance and labor costs. Thank you so much. We also need to look into additional shared services without adding any additional expenses. No more manpower to do a project or bring in equipment. We got to do what we currently have today where it's not viable to look at this point in time. And ensure that future contracts, when they come up or we can negotiate them out now, have the ability to revisit the set percent increase each year based on all variables. In the past, it was always 2%, 2% because of our budget can't go over 2%. So that was the doctrine everybody used. But I'm saying, we're all seeing it, that health insurance and other things are out of our control. 2% doesn't cover it anymore. So we need to be able to have the ability to go back to them and say, hey, we have X amount of people working on this, and our insurance claim on this, we need X to cover the additional increases on our end. Fee schedule. So we're in the process of updating our administrative fees to ensure applicants cover costs, not the general taxpayers. We're also doing an internal audit of our vendor agreements to eliminate any potential redundancy in services. Currently looking at phone services and phone carriers. And then new streams of revenue, it's imperative to focus on diversifying our tax base through business attraction and commercial redevelopment. And yes, that means looking at possibly using pilots to bring developers in here to do work and take interest in Bloomingdale. We talked about this before, the borough-owned land sales, one-time revenue, plus yearly tax rateable. Right now, they're currently exempt properties, we're not getting anything for them. And we know there's at least two that we're aware of that we think are viable options. And evaluating ordinances for licensing and regulatory fee opportunities. So the Ordinance Review Committee is working on, or will be working on that. So our goals are to balance our budget, increase our revenues, stabilize our debt, our service payments without sacrificing infrastructure improvements, and then manage the fund balance and surplus. So balanced budget, this isn't just making the numbers match, it's about ensuring the municipality is long-term survival in a high inflation environment. This year, balancing the budget required aggressive management of non-discretionary spikes, specifically the health insurance and contractual labor lines. We have balanced these by tightening department discretionary spending. While a balanced budget tells us where we stand today, increasing the revenues is a strategy that ensures we can continue to improve quality services tomorrow without overburdening our residents. Increasing municipal revenues, we cannot rely solely on property taxes to fund 21st century services. Our goal is to diversify our revenue stream so that the burden of the borough is spread across a wider variety of sources. We are reviewing our fee and firm schedules to ensure that those requesting special services like construction inspections or land use applications are covering the administrative costs. General taxpayers should not be subsidizing private development. In shared service agreements, we are treating our shared services agreements like a business. We are auditing every contract to ensure our neighbors are paying a fair market rate that reflects our actual 2026 labor and insurance costs. Just in summary, and we hit on a lot of stuff here, just in summary here, and this is really for yourself, Councilman, you brought it up, 85% of the increase, the $1.2 million increase we had over last year in the municipal budget is comprised of the following uncontrolled and or limited control variables: storm expenses, the RUT, health insurance, contractual salaries, library obligations, and debt service obligations. Any questions?
And like the other 15% that you say we can't control, it's like shut it down.
It's
right.
It's department. That's like department. It's department budgets.
Right. Exactly.
If you shut it down, you're shutting down.
Shut it down. You gotta cut service.
Yes. And when I say limited, they're limited because yes, the governing body could, if they wanted to get rid of furlough people or lay people, they could. But then you also have to get rid of services if you did that. So that's the juggling act. But I'm saying 85% of the budget increase was really controlled. It is what it is, unless you made some drastic.
Health insurance, 700,000 or 760,000 in 2 years. It's unbelievable, right? I never did this.
Nope. No.
And how do you bring in more revenue to offset that 700,000?
Yeah.
There is no.
When I look back at our health insurance over the last, since 2020, it's gone up 82% or 13% a year. And that all really took place the last 2 years. Health insurance in 2020 actually went down, in 2021 went down 4.7%. In 22, it went up 0.1%. It went up 18% in 23. It went up 2% in 24. 18 and 22, 2.1 and 24, 22%, and then 29% this year, the last 2 years, respectively.
But it's not stopping. Based on what you said about the state
For next year?
Yeah.
No, you gotta look at, and we use, like I said, we use one-time sales to help us bring it in as low as we possibly could, which smart thing to do. Otherwise, we could have been looking at some crazy numbers, crazier numbers. So we had an opportunity to use a one-time sale, and we took that opportunity and we used it this year.
And the other thing that kind of hurts us is we go in and we make cuts to the department head budgets, right? By making that cut, and our department heads watch what they're spending, but by making that cut, there's no reserve that's going to roll into next year. So you're really cutting it on both sides of the fence here. So it helps you maybe a little bit this year, but it's going to hurt you next year because that doesn't go to your
Surplus, your fund.
or fund.
It's like the library.
So that's money, and it's got to be a balance. So our job and our staff is doing it, is they're watching everything through Mike and Heather and Jasmine, is to watch what they're spending this year so we have money to roll back into surplus for next year. So we can start building our surplus back up and get to where hopefully we're all comfortable.
And keep in mind that's like 11% of the budget is what your 10% department head budget. 10% is all you really touch. So 10% of $10 million or $9.8 million is what we're really touching.
Then we have control.
Some type of control. You still have contracts and stuff that each department has that we've signed up for, and year over year, software, whatever. Even that's limited.
Right. So
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
With the sheet 10, the 800,000 that says is the sale, were you talking about the sale asset? Is that amount refundable? Because you said we have the empty.
Yep. So that's an agreement that the governing body has signed with M&T partners. We received $800,000 this year. And it is non-refundable. It is ours.
Okay. And then the also sheet 10, the 290,000.
Yep.
Which items include the capital account? What was that overfunded?
Nope. This amount is what's comprised of our canceled ordinances, where we completed the project under the award amount. So that money was left over, and we're using it in here. So it's not new money.
And also on sheet 10, what is the reservation fee?
The reservation fee is also part of the agreement with M&T. We own the property, so we don't have tax on it. It's just that they're paying us $100,000 a year holding it until they own the property and they get a building permit. Then that reservation fee goes away.
And then on sheet 13, it says financial management salaries and wages. That they went up 68,000.
Yep. We hired a new full-time CFO, and we canceled the shared service with Woodland Park for the CFO. So that's where the $68,000 increase came from.
And I'm sorry, question. On sheet 14, the public buildings and grounds. Those all salaries also went up 61,500.
Yep.
They're actually a new addition. They're not new. They're moved. There was no public buildings and grounds employees in it, but they were all inside of the streets and roads budget, so I broke them out into their own department. It's kind of where they belong. So I moved them home where they belong.
it's just easier to control. You can see where the money is actually coming from each department that we have, whether it be water, DPW, buildings and grounds.
So
we just broke out instead of lumping all into one.
So some salaries obviously did go up some with contractual obligation. So they did go up, whatever our contract said they were going to go up. But then, as Heather said, we also adjusted the budget to take them out of that line item and make it easier on us financially to control and look at where people are.
And from sheet 15A, the streets and roads salaries went up 130,000. Is that
That went up because of the snow emergency, the overtime for the snow emergencies, and the contraction, the white collar, I'm sorry, the blue collar contractual agreement we have with those employees.
And yeah, the snow, that's just, there's nothing we can do with that. Just, it says 0, for sheet 15C, snow expenses 65,000. Last year, it says 0. Why, why it says 0?
Yeah.
That is a statutorily permissible line item. We are putting money in for snow removal that will not last with the budget. When this budget year is over for 26, that money can be transferred to the snow reserve trust account. So we'll be able to utilize it in prior years if it's not well expended in 26.
This will help us, we just got hit doing a presentation, I told you, $190,000 on overtime expenses for those 2 storms. This will help with that.
But is there like a comparable, like I know probably didn't snow as much last year. Do we have like a comparison?
No, we don't. We had 0 last year. We were at 0 the year before that. We never put any money in that line item, but our CFO recommended that we do a snow expense line for that reason. When there's an emergency, the
By
money.
doing that, it won't hurt us going down the road. You have money there,
And
you, for an emergency,
and you roll it over
it
to the
doesn't go over to the following day, so it helps you in the long run.
And then another question, the storm response recovery, the 109,833, are all of these related?
Yes, they are. Yep.
And then sheet 15B, employee health, which you said there's nothing we can do about that, but it's doubled.
Actually, yes. You said it's 240. It's actually $424,000 that went up this year, which we had no control over. That's what the health insurance fund that we were in, those are the rates that they increased, was 22, 23.6, whatever that number was.
Is there, you were talking about shopping around for, I think you said you were going to start shopping around for power or some kind of services for vendor. Is that a possibility to look for a different health thing for the town?
You have kind of 2 choices. You either go into the state fund, which is at a 36% increase, or we're in the hip and the JIF now, because I don't believe there's another group that handles municipalities other than these two carriers. So we're in the one, the hip and JIF that we purposely got to say going back many years ago, because it was more reasonable for the same coverage. And in years past, they would only go up maybe 3%, 4%, 5%, sometimes they didn't go up at all. And the state kept climbing. So we were benefiting from it. And we're still benefiting because we're about 12 to 13% less of an increase than what the state package was. Because contractually, for our municipality, you have to either give them equal or better to insurance. So we shopped it, that's how we became part of the HIP and the JIF. Going back, I'm going to say 10 years ago, 12, somewhere around there, and we shopped it big time. But these are the only two carriers that really cover municipalities for the same quality of coverage.
Yeah, you're in contract, so it's not like you can just self-insure, or you're never going to get what you have with your current HIF. And the contract state, you have to be equal to or better than the state health benefit plan.
Okay. Then another question, and I really thank you.
Yeah.
We gave it to you before, but on sheet 26A, leases on vehicles went up 303 to 367.
Yeah. That was, I talked about that on one slide in the presentation, around 67,000 on that. 20,000 was 2 new police cars we bought this year. And the other 40 was the street sweeper, We took it out of the shared service line. We used to offset it with shared service money. We put it into our budget, operating budget, because we had better benefits on the back end by putting it back into our, and taking it out of the shared service side.
And I definitely, I appreciate how the DPW does keep everything clean, and I definitely voted yes for a lot of this stuff, but just asking a question. And my last one is the debt service that went up $1 million. What's your,
Yep, it went up $123,000, not $1 million. $123,000 debt service went up. And again, that was uncontrollable. Those are principal and interest payments on bonds and notes dating back as far as 2009 through last year.
and then this, with the state, you said that they're questioning certain, like, what's the deadline? So the next time we're here is when you're adopting it?
As long as the state, when we send our responses back to the state of the questions that they have, and as long as the state approves our budget, then we will adopt on the 23rd, which we feel confident that that will happen. It has some questions. Every 3 years we go into a state exam, and this is the 3rd year. So we're obligated to send our budget to the state for their review. And then when they have questions, our finance and auditor handles all the questions. They send back their responses, and then the state will either accept it or they'll ask you more questions. So we feel confident that with our responses back is that we'll be ready to adopt on the 23rd.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure. Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else have questions?
Great job, great presentation. I'll tell you, it was more than just budget. It was more, this is how a town runs, this is what your expenses are, this is what you can and can't control.
It's been a lot of time on the budget itself.
As much as it hurts all of us, right? You don't like this? A lot of it.
I just, on behalf of myself, like to thank the 3 of you for all the time you put into it. I know when I come into the office and I look at it, there's papers all over the place, and then you have Andy out in the back and just typing away, looking and getting things, and then Joe comes in, and then we come in and tear it apart, and they go back and start typing again. But it's a real work in progress. It doesn't just take a week to do this. It's months of putting everything together, starting back January.
Yep, and this is not just the Bloomingdale thing. This is
Everybody.
every municipality in New Jersey.
Yeah, I can just tell you.
Same issues.
Yes, I've talked, that's what I was going to say, I've talked to other municipalities, everybody's going through what we're doing. This is not unusual this year. It wasn't unusual last year. Okay, so we have to, where are we in this? Yeah. We'll do the public road safety first, right? Before I read this? After the resolution. Right? Yeah. Okay, item C, 2026 municipal budget public notice statement, please.
Mayor, this is the time fixed for the public hearing on the municipal budget and tax resolution for 2026. The budget was approved by the governing body on May 5th, 2026. It was advertised as required by law, together with notice of hearing for this time.
Okay. Okay. So accept that? That's a resolution first.
Motion and a second to read.
Adoption of resolution number 2026 6.7, reading the budget by title. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
No.
Roll.
Yeah, this is just to read the budget.
Yes.
Hagan? Yes. Schubert?
Yes.
Yazdi?
Yes.
Ronker?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Let's read first. Okay. Before opening this hearing, I wish to outline the procedure. Each person desiring to be heard will rise or give his or her name and an address before speaking. I will recognize one speaker at a time in order of rising, as nearly as I can determine. Address all questions to the chair. Where necessary, they will be referred to individual members of the governing body or municipal officials. Questions must be confined solely to the municipal budget before us. School or county matters are not proper subjects for this hearing and cannot be discussed or answered here tonight. I now declare the public hearing for 2026 open. Do I have a motion to open up public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak about the budget, come on up.
Charles Carvalho, second time in that. Real simple question. Great presentation. When will it be available on the website?
It's already available.
It's actually there.
on
The
The
introduced budget.
presentation,
The presentation will be up
or
there.
the budget.
Presentation.
It's on there now. It's on the website now.
Going up now? Because I looked earlier and all I see is the regular agenda.
We uploaded around
About 5 o'clock or so, we put it on there.
after regular business.
Okay, maybe I'm looking in the wrong place, because when I look, I still find it the agenda, and where the items go. Maybe in a different location. I just want to show looking in the right spot in the future.
So it's in two spots.
I see the file listing.
Yep.
It starts number 1, agenda 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. List all the items. Down to the right.
Number 12.
I don't see a
2026
12.
budget.
Maybe it didn't refresh.
Try to refresh.
Okay, that was my question.
Sometimes you see it on your phone, right? You don't see everything.
It's coming up on my phone. We did it at like 5 o'clock. It was after.
Okay, maybe it's.
Nothing.
If you look at
Yeah, number
Okay,
12.
so it's for some reason it's not refreshing on my phone. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else wishing to come up? Heather?
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, request a motion to postpone the budget adoption for further review by the division and the governing body. The adoption of the municipal budget will be postponed to June 23rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do a roll call on this.
I think all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. New business. Okay, new business. Adoption of resolution number 2026 6.8, approval of the change order number 1 for Ann and Elm. Do I have a motion to accept the change order?
So moved.
Before we, this is for the Waterline Memorial Court. If you're familiar where the work's being done in the dead end street, which is right off of Lakeside, around the corner from Ann, that we just added that water line. There was no sense going through what we're going through and leaving that section out.
Put a new wire.
So, and we have a new fire hydrant up in the, I think up in the cul-de-sac. So we put, that'll be all brand new because that's all asbestos water lines that are through there. So now they'll all be ducted line through because we're going to pave there. So there was no sense not doing the water. Okay. Roll call.
Schubert,
Yes.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Crocker,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Adoption of resolution number 2026 6.9, approval change order number 1 for the senior center alterations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second here. Chair, Commissioners.
Nope, that's where, we did chair rail. There was only part of it had chair rail, so we did chair rail around the whole thing, we took that wall down. They did some different concrete work by Pat's office. Took the pad out and mostly grinded it. And so that had a little more cost. So a couple of things that they added in.
Okay. So I have a motion by Ray, I need a second. Jen? Any questions on this? Now, I will say it came out very nice inside there. It's nice to walk on a level floor. Without that wall, it's a little huge. Roll call, please.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Proctor,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hagan. Yes. Schubert.
Yes.
Item C, introduction of bond ordinance number 9-2026, various road improvements. Do I have a motion to read by title?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On ordinance providing for the reconstruction of various roads by and in the borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, appropriating $415,000 therefore, inclusive of an NJDOT grant in the amount of $331,080 and authorizing the issuance of $415,000 bonds or notes of the borough to finance the structure.
Okay.
Sorry, second final reading and adoption will be on June 23rd.
Okay. Do a motion to open public comment.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to come up?
Charles Carvalho, 75 Mill Ave. These are mostly thank yous. I want to thank Mr. Sondermeyer for the work that he did at the senior center. Not just the construction, but the extra effort until the end to clean it up so that seniors can get back in. And so thank you for that. Also, I've been working with Mr. Sondermeyer regards to resolutions. One is on healthcare. I mean, the school system is the same impact as the municipality. I believe that if you have 500 school districts and 500 municipalities, you have 1,000 voices. I think those 1,000 voices should make a clear trend that we need relief on healthcare. So that's one resolution that we're supporting. The other resolution, I'm working with Mr. Steinmeier, I'm working with Mr. Brockers on, is the Highlands resolution. We're in the Highlands. The state right now is looking at some kind of relief to the Highlands acts, and I think we should give some strong effort to look at that to see if we can encourage the state to give us relief on that area as well. Because I think we both benefit from putting our efforts to get relief from the state on that front as well. So those are three comments I just want to make.
Well, I'll just have the support of both of them. Even though we have a small section of town that's in the Highlands, but it has hurt us in the past. And I've been reading the articles for the local towns around us, as far as Jefferson, and I totally agree. So when we get that all together, I'm sure we'll hopefully get support, 100% support here for both.
Yeah. Even if we don't sometimes directly benefit, I think supporting our neighbors will also benefit. We might just make the cutoff, at least on the school side, just to be aware of it. We might just make the cutoff to be able to get the state to give some support on the school side, which would benefit the taxpayers.
Yep.
Overall benefits everybody. Yep.
Okay, thank you for the
You're welcome. Anyone else? See if no one wants to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do not have an executive session today. Our next meeting will be June 23rd at 7 p.m. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.